can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Well, welcome to Sam, Mike and Don. You Cannot Be Serious. What episode? Million? What are we up to?
Oh, I don't know, 1,245.
Right, 1,000 we're up to. Well, a very, very busy week. Very, very busy week. Could I just canvass, firstly, you two?
You do what you want. Just be normal.
Well, Mick, I haven't quite wrapped my head around when the season ramps up. This is the AFL season.
Yeah.
Could you possibly, Don, tell me the logic whereby players not selected to play can't go to the game? If you're on the bench, you've got to sit 1.5 metres apart, but the players can play the game, tackle, bump, push each other over, lie on top of one another, and no one can go to the game even if they social distance in the stands. Where is the logic of any of that, or have I missed something?
And what about the false...
Is that an answer to a question I just asked?
And add the false audience that's going to be there, the crowd
The
noise
false
that
audience.
Channel 7 are going to add to the telecast
Don,
to create atmosphere.
did you hear the
It's a joke.
Did you hear the question I
did,
asked
John,
you?
and I said it's a joke. Everything's a joke, mate.
No, but did I worry about the false crowd noises?
I said all you... And I added that as another point.
No, well, I would like you to answer the first question first.
There's
then we'll
no
get
answer to it. You're right.
Well,
It's
what?
totally inconsistent.
So why? How does people make? I'm glad the AFL.
What are you saying? How do people make these decisions?
How do they make these?
Hey,
They're
listen,
just
mate,
ad hoc decisions.
I scratch my head. There's 44 points of protocol that the AFL have put out.
44?
44.
Yeah, but I think...
And how are you going to get... How many footballers are there? There's, 18 teams? There'd be
1,000.
50, no, 900. Say there's 900 officials and footballers and whatever. How are you going to control 900 people and make them adhere to the 44
No, I
protocol
think what they're
points?
trying to do is minimise the risk.
Oh, come on. Well, why even play the game?
Well, because we want the game, do we
No,
not?
we do.
No,
what-
I don't care, mate. I don't
No,
want any more of this
Mate.
coronavirus. We had it out at, what's that place called? Cedar Meats. One person came in. They're responsible for 90. We're coming into the wet season or the cold season, and I don't
Winter,
know,
that's
and nobody knows what's going to happen. Yet we're pushing the envelope all the time.
Well, no, I don't have an issue with them trying to get the game going.
No, I don't either. Because
Why?
I'll tell you why, Donald. Because if you don't try and do something, eventually society will grind to a halt, and the effects of the coronavirus, while it is a pandemic, will be almost overshadowed by suicides, people going mad, domestic violence, drunkenness, drug taking. There is a fine line between being proactive a little and actually
Well, it's even closer to home.
closing the whole world down.
Yeah.
Well, closer to home, where we get our coffees, you two are sucking on those coffees now. Steve's closing down because of the coronavirus. Did you know that?
Well, it was Steve.
Well, now that he makes the best coffees in Melbourne.
No, he doesn't.
Well, my son makes the best in Sorrento.
And my son makes the best in Melbourne.
And if I had a son, he'd make the best coffee. So go on.
Well,
what's
no,
your
but he
point?
hasn't got a coffee shop. So why enter
Oh,
this
well,
argument?
he would make the best if he
Why?
had a. Because I was why?
yeah.
Because he'd be diligent enough, and he's a barista, Donald.
Who is?
Oh, fucking!
Don't swear.
Oh, sorry, I beg your
Listen,
pardon.
I was interviewed on radio
I'm
yesterday,
sorry.
and the trouble
Again,
is
another interview.
yes, the
I
lady
thought
got upset because of my language, and
I-
this is bad forum for me because
I
we
thought
are
you were
relaxed. You
reclusive.
say fuck, and I'm not allowed to say shit
Bad
on
forum.
radio.
This is a
Well, that's
bad
different.
forum.
We're not on radio. Which radio station did you do?
DD Dunleavy.
Jeez, you for a bloke who's
AW.
for a bloke who's a recluse, you've got a lot of
What
exposure.
did I say?
I wasn't
I
gonna-
just talk shit for. I used the word shit, and she got upset.
Yeah, well, Don, that they broadcast.
But see,
to people,
normally I'm controlled, but this
conservative
forum
audience they've got. Oh, I wasn't going to jump onto this, but we may as well do it now. Don and the three amigos, we'll call them, Bernie Quinlan
And Tony Jewell.
They're on Media Street. They are.
here. What do you mean?
What do you mean? You didn't read the
Oh, on the ABC
huge
website.
article that they did about you? And this is how the bloke described you when he obviously interviewed you. He said, I met Don. He said he wears a tweed Baker Boy cap, a characteristic bold shirt unbuttoned far enough to reveal the sculptural pendants hanging from his necklace, and on one wrist a configuration of 4 braided bangles in a Mondrian colour scheme.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Tony Jules said, the big tough boy used to sell lingerie to women.
What?
Lingerie.
How do you spell it?
Lingerie.
It's lingerie, you idiot.
Oh, Benny Hill used to call it lingerie. I'm just being...
But you're getting more publicity now than you did when
What
you
are you
played.
jealous?
Am I jealous?
Yeah, we are.
What of?
Well,
Get my name in the paper.
He's everywhere. He's in Queensland. He's on the Queensland News doing something about golf. Then there's Channel 9, the opening of the golf season. He's bigger than big.
Well,
The
you think I'm
Guardian-
jealous about you think I want my name in the paper, do you?
I think you do.
This was
What,
the
'cause of
headline.
After
Is
45
that-
years.
No, what about that? Oh, yeah, just what is the byline by Michael Sheehan?
Yeah.
This was the headline.
Yeah.
Well, what
This
about
was
the,
the
show?
headline,
What's it got?
Donald.
Open mic, is that on or what? Are they doing replays?
Replays. This was the headline, Donald.
They are.
They are what, doing replays?
Yeah.
The gardening crew turning heads
People
on
don't want to
coastal,
listen to
on
this.
the gardening crew turning heads on country Victoria. That's you, Bernie, and Tony.
Yeah.
And we learnt that Bernie, besides doing these odd jobs with you, and it says you shout at them and give them orders and everything. That's what the article
Well, he
says.
shouts at us too.
I know, but at least what are you wincing for? What are you grimacing for? That's exactly what you do. And we found out that Bernie drives a bus
Yeah.
out to the airport.
Yeah, and the idiot was driving it when that coronavirus was going on. And he's working with us, and we told him... Oh,
And you know where he got his experience. Now, I'm
For
told
what?
driving the bus.
yeah, driving the rubbish truck.
No, a friend of his used to drive a bus down to the station in England when he was over there cohabiting with this bloke. And
Who, Bernie or the bloke?
Bernie's friend he had to drive a bus down to the station in England, and he had to get out of the bus and say free bus to the Hotel Astor. And he got a bit nervous the first day.
Is this a joke? You're an idiot. You are.
This is where
Oh,
Bernie
God,
got it
yeah,
from.
You had me in for 5
the
minutes.
bloke had to, it was his first day on the job, and he drove the bus down to the station, and all he had to do is get out of the bus and say, free bus to the Hotel Astor. And he got a bit nervous the first day, and he said, free ass to the Hotel Buster. I mean, bust your ass at the hotel freezer. I mean, freeze your ass at the Hotel Buster. Oh, kiss me ass, you bastards, and get a taxi. I quit. That's where he got his experience from.
That's true, is it?
That's absolutely.
It's true.
Hey, listen,
Absolutely true.
What about the footy story, the real footy story of the week?
What?
Jack Stephen.
Oh, yeah. Well, what's the
He
story?
stabbed him. He got stabbed.
He's in hospital with a stab wound to his chest,
Yeah.
apparently perilously close to his heart,
Yeah.
and no one knows what happened.
Does
So,
Jack
what,
know
so
what
what's the
happened?
story?
Does Jack know what
Well,
happened?
Jack says he doesn't know.
Mate, you
didn't
have
Jack-
choices in life, and Jack's made his choices.
Why?
And he lives by those choices.
What's that mean, Don?
Yes, what does that mean, Don?
He's a
Think
big
he's on the
boy, and he's obviously done something. We've all been in these situations, you know.
Oh, you
he's
say
been
you've
stabbed, have you?
been stabbed in the
Yeah.
heart, have you?
Well, you can have a fight, Johnny, and you either stand there and fight, or you walk away and say, no, thank you very much.
So he was in a fight. You
Well, no,
believe?
no. I'm saying we've all been in this situation. So
Well, we
you make a
haven't. That's not
decision.
true.
What?
We haven't all been in this situation
I have.
where we've denied to the police that we know anything about what happened and put us in hospital.
But we've been in situations where we've been confronted with a problem, and which could result in us being interviewed by the police, and we say, no, I don't want this problem.
Do we?
Oh, well, I
I
certainly
don't know.
do.
Do you know anyone? I know people in the underworld have done that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah, what?
Gangatano. I knew him. He no, it doesn't matter.
Alphonse?
Alphonse.
Yeah, what's that got to do with what we're talking about?
Oh well, Mick just said in the underworld that happens a little in the underworld because they
Well, it
are
happens a lot.
in charge of nefarious activities. We don't know what Jack was in charge of or doing.
Well,
do
have
we?
you got a view about what happened?
What? I've got a view.
Do
yeah.
either of you have a view
Yeah,
about
I have a
what
view.
happened? What is it?
Well, I'm not sure that I should say.
Well,
Yeah,
it's never
well, why
worried you
not?
before.
Well. The inference would be that I know. I don't know. No, I'm not going to say it. Thank you.
What's he not going to say?
I have an assumption that I think I know what it was probably about. But I don't think I should say it because it's only my opinion.
Geez, that's never worried you before.
No, because it might be casting absolutely incorrect aspersions or nasturtiums.
No, aspersions will
Nasturtiums
do.
are a flower.
Thank you, Don. It's just testing because
No,
I know
you're ignorant.
Oh, holy mackerel. I was only just doing that
Fish.
because I know you're a horticultural expert and starting. The three amigos are going on the road actually doing gardening for... Is it true you've been...
Do you want your garden done?
Is it... yeah, come up to the...
Yeah, the 50th
Don,
floor
is
and
it
angle
true
on the
you've been
teeth.
approached by a... or don't you want me to go there?
What's that?
Approached by a network to do a...
Oh, jeez.
all
There's
right.
nothing you can tell.
No,
when I have a conversation with you, it's either on the record or off the record. Have I got to preface it every time we have a conversation?
Yes.
There's nothing sacred.
You certainly do have
Just
to.
be like Malcolm Turnbull and just everything you hear is available. Hey, listen, why have we... I want to ask one more question on Jack Stephen.
You can ask as many as you like,
All right.
Mick.
If you were running the Geelong Footy Club, what would your requirements be of Jack in this case?
I wouldn't have recruited him in the first
No.
place.
No, but...
Now, given he's now there...
I tell you what mine would, when he's out of hospital, come to the manager's office or the CEO's office, sit down there and tell us what the God's name is going on, mate, because we have a duty to our fans, our sponsors.
No, he's an employee too.
Yes, he is.
You know, and in any workplace, you would really want to know. Don't worry about the fans or anything. You're paying his money.
Don,
you want to know what he's up to.
Don, did you not understand what I was saying then?
No, I
I'm
didn't.
saying exactly what you're saying. He's an employee, so the manager or the CEO gets him in and says, Jack, sit down there, my man. Tell me exactly what's going on because we have a duty to our sponsors, our fans, the AFL, whatever. Tell us what's going on and we can take some remedial action or we can get you into rehab or we can get you into a clinic or we can, whatever it is that you're on or doing, we can assess the situation. Wouldn't that be reasonable?
I would have thought so. Last Dance, Donald, did you watch it last night?
No, halfway through it, Mick, the first episode.
Last night's first episode.
Last night's episode, I watched another film and I got into it at 9:30 and I thought, no, I'm off to bed.
And you, John, you would have watched it?
No, he wouldn't. He
No.
wouldn't even know what
So you haven't watched an episode?
Yes.
You have?
No, yes, I haven't. You said you haven't, and I said, yes,
No.
that's correct.
No,
I haven't.
No, I haven't. Well,
No,
why would you? Isn't
that's
that
the double
isn't that
negative,
just
Mick.
being obstructionist and
I'm not
and
being
perverse? I mean, why? It's the most talked about documentary in sport in the world.
Well, you talk about it,
and
please.
it's 10 episodes long and you haven't seen one of them.
Not one of them, but I want you to talk about it, Mick. This is the beauty, the diversity of this forum. You tell us what is good about it and go have a chat to Don and
No,
I'll...
but I'm just querulous.
Querulous.
Yeah. About why you would not just say, okay, well, I'm not doing a lot with my time these days.
Yes.
A bit of whittling. Why would you have...
Oh, very good, Mick. A bit of whittling. Got a bit of driftwood off the beach and just fashioned a couple of corgi
Why
dogs
would you
out
have
of
not watched the documentary about the greatest
watching the
sportsman that's
CBS
ever been
News.
born?
What's
you
that,
were
Don?
watching CBS News. He's got better
CBS
things.
News, you idiot. Because I'm not interested, Mick. That's
In
why.
what, in Jordan or basketball?
Well, both.
Wow.
But I'm interested in personalities from Australia who play it and are succeeding in it and have done well in it. But I'm just not interested in the sport per se or Mr. Jordan.
Gee.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that,
No,
Mick.
you don't have to be sorry.
I think there's a lot of things
Oh, don't
come out of this thing. Luke Longley.
I'm very
one.
glad about Luke. He's a star, and
Glad about what? That he got totally snubbed by Jordan?
I'm glad that he's made it over there. Like Andrew Bogut, they're fantastic sportsmen. Well, they're men, as I understand it. Fantastic sportsmen, and good on them. But I'm not actually interested in the American NBA.
Wow.
Can we bring this back to a local thing and something that's come up?
Well, it's the most talked about documentary in the sporting world, Don. We don't need to be that provincial that we can't talk about it here.
I understand. I talked to you about it, but I only saw half an episode last night. I can talk to you about the other 6, but not the latest that came out, the 2 that came out last night.
Speaking of watching television,
Yes, can I? Go on.
can I ask you this? And I don't want to be rounded up by the politically correct brigade. How many people who are hard of hearing watch...
How did you know I was going to bring that up? I've got that
Because
point. Deaf interpreters.
How many?
I was going to bring that up.
Well,
Isn't that
Don,
amazing?
let's have the discussion.
Yes.
How many people who?
Is there a pool of them?
All right, Don, you speak.
Well, it's got me bewildered. I sit there and watch the ABC news, and last time I'm thinking, geez, there's another one. And I watch there's another one.
It's a
Is
cottage.
are there a million of these interpreters, or do the government employ them, or they just come out of the Deaf Institute?
That's a very good point, Don.
What-
It's a
what
cottage
goes on?
industry.
Is it a cottage industry?
It's a cottage industry. The politically correct brigade. How many people who are hard of hearing are watching television that need an interpreter to explain every single
But they've
thing
got
that's
to watch
going on in the
ABC.
world?
What do you got your hand up for, Rod?
It's a joke. He couldn't hear you. He
You've got to
pretended he
use
couldn't
your
hear
fingers, Johnny. Sign language, mate.
I'll use my fingers in a minute. The middle finger in a minute if you
But
don't
why
shut
aren't
up.
they
Don.
on commercial TV? They're only on the ABC.
No, they're not. They're all
What?
over American television, all the news,
Well, I don't watch
all
that.
the people who speak. There's these people sign languaging. If you turn the television up if you can't hear it.
No,
But
no,
then
no, Johnny,
why
they're
does it
deaf.
offend you?
Because it takes, you're trying to watch someone speak and you've got
Exactly.
these people on the left.
Exactly.
Genuflecting and
Genuflecting.
No, that's a Catholic thing, though.
Genuflecting. It's just going down on your knee, that is.
I thought it was a somersault down the aisle in the church. A genuflect, isn't that a
Go down
somersault?
on your knee.
so
Yeah.
I'm sure.
What is it? Who is this person?
Give him his microphone.
They've got to put subtitles on the news, okay? But they can't do subtitles on a press conference.
Why not? You can speak. You can speak, mate. You can. You can you can speak into your phone, and it will text what you're saying on a phone in this technology. It is. I tell you, I don't know how many people are hard of hearing, but is it necessary to have every single broadcast people sign languaging? And how many disabled people are driving cars? When you go to a supermarket, the first 80 spaces outside are for disabled people. What does that mean? How many people who are
Why don't
disabled?
you just throw the blind into and attack them all now?
I'm not attacking, Mick.
No, he's got a relevant point. What about the pregnant women? There's so many pregnant women
I'm not
around
attacking
too.
people. I mean, I could ask for a disabled sticker. 'cause
Yeah, and I would give it to you
well, but if
on
you're,
genuine grounds, yeah.
so that's a very interesting point. How hard is it to get one? I should go and get one, and I would get out, and someone would say, "Oh, you can walk properly." Most people who get out of the cars can walk properly.
Let me ask you, you talked about the pregnant woman. Would a heavily pregnant woman qualify to park in a handicapped
Well, they have-
parking spot?
Well, no. They've got their own spots down at my supermarket. There
For-
are a
for
number of
pregnant
spots
women?
for pregnant women.
Wow.
What was it?
With prams.
What's this? Oh, prams. Is
They
it?
have a pram.
Not a figure of a big with a big fat
Oh,
stomach.
you idiot. I just told you, don't try and make fun of it.
Oh, making fun of it. Well. So
Now,
how
have you
heavily?
been out in your have you been out in your boat lately?
No,
What's happening?
it's resting.
Where?
It's injured.
What do you mean?
What do I mean?
Yes.
It's not operative.
Well, what? So what? No more boat or boat?
No more boat at the minute. No.
It's the Joe Danaher of the waterways, isn't it? We can't get it
No,
right.
hang on, because I've got something. I came out of South Road today, looked across the bay. I saw an oil rig. Now, this is why I'm asking you.
Yes.
Do they park oil rigs somewhere over in Corio Bay or
Yes, they
St
do. They
Leonard?
bring them in for service and maintenance.
So where do they park this thing?
They
Was
park
huge.
them in what's called spoil ground, which is where you anchor out of the channel so that
Is
you
that
don't.
right?
Yes.
So is it near Indented Head or Corio Bay? Because it looked huge. From
Yes,
what
they are huge. They're big oil rigs,
You
Donald.
could have come from Indented Head, I reckon.
Sharp as ever, Mick. That is really clever. Now, what I want to do with you, go Don, quickly, please just canvass any other thing that you have.
Well, we have to talk
because
Alan Jones. Sorry, but because he's going to say this is over in a sec. Alan Jones is gone. Does anyone care? And where does he sit? And
did he get pushed, or did he resign, or retire, or what?
I would have thought he would have got a push.
Oh, you would have thought. You were hoping he would have, but do
Yeah.
you know?
He should have got a push about 15 years ago.
Why?
Because he's a lunatic.
Why?
Because he's got a
has
different political view to you.
No,
Yeah,
because he's a
that's-
bully. I don't care what his political opinion is.
Yes, you do.
Because mine changes by the week anyway.
No,
but
it
he's a
doesn't.
bully.
No.
He's
You're
a conservative commentator, which doesn't rest easily with you.
He bullies people.
Well, but he might ask them for an answer rather than
Really?
procrastinating when he asks questions. And you know who's taking over from him?
Yeah,
A man,
Ben Fordham.
Ben, and we might ask Ben to come on next week.
Well, perhaps we should. I just want to know what your view is about Alan Jones and his legacy to radio in Australia.
Well, he was a bit like Ormsby Wilkins.
I remember him.
And he was a bit like Norman Banks. And he was a bit like John Laws.
He was vitriolic, yeah.
Thank you, Mick. That's why I included him. And they have opinions, and they're right-wing commentators. And there's plenty of left-wing commentators on your favourite station. In fact, there is only left-wing commentators
How
on
would you know? You haven't watched the ABC since Today Tonight started.
And why?
Well, because you're ignorant.
No, but I'm ignorant, Mick. I'm ignorant enough to know I won't watch it because they're so left-wing, it's embarrassing.
Well, they spent last night 40 minutes talking about climate change and
There
the
you
future
are.
of the world.
There you
And
are.
we all should have watched it. Did you watch that, Don?
No, I didn't.
What did they-
But
what did
I
they come
did
up
watch
with?
on the ABC, and I'm going to back you up here, and this is an impromptu meeting between the three of us. I watched that song, We Are
Australia. I am, you are, we are Australia.
You couldn't think of the country it was
I'd
about,
like that
Don.
put on the end of our show instead of Daddy Cool, Eagle Rock. What about it, Michael?
Well, I
Can we
love the song, but do we finish with an anthem?
An anthem, I think it's a great song. We Are Australian.
Yeah,
we
no,
are
it's
the
a
reverse.
brilliant song.
I think we should promote it.
So
Promote it
Don,
on our show.
So, Don, you want to finish with We Are Australian, be patronising and dippity-doo-dah on here. We say, come back again, Daddy Cool, because we want people to come back next
Oh,
week.
is that the reason we play it, John?
What did you ever listen to the
I've
words?
Never, I've just danced to it. Never listened, just danced.
Come
Come on, Don, ask him the question because I've got another couple before we
Quickly,
go.
What question?
because
Well, you
then
had a
I'm going
question, you
to...
said.
I've got a whole book of questions. Look, whole page.
Okay,
Well, quickly.
ask one.
Oh, God.
Because I'm going to ring someone up in a minute.
Who?
Yeah,
Just a minute. Go ahead. Go on, Don.
No, this is going to take a lot of...
We'll decide
I
that.
should have.
We'll cut
I
it
should have
short
brought
if it's
this
crap.
up at our promptu meeting prior to.
what, the one where you changed the direction and said how much
thought
money
we
we're
would.
getting?
Exactly. When are we getting paid for this?
Don, you're about
What?
to do a... Oh, no, I won't mention what you're about to do on another network, so I'll go ahead, because that was a private conversation, and I
Oh,
don't
no,
want
that's never stopped you in the past.
to... Do you want me to go with it
Yeah,
now?
you can do whatever you like.
Don's
Johnny.
been offered a 10...
No.
Oh, don't. Oh,
No. Haven't been offered. Been approached.
that's...
Pretty close to an offer. Yeah.
Do you want me to go on with it, Don?
By whom?
Steve Dundon.
Oh, gee, you've just tipped him in. You
Well,
are
look,
extraordinary.
he asked me who, and I
Well,
told
you
you.
would be diplomatic and say, I can't tell you at this stage. We're in early
So if I
negotiations.
get a little bit of diplomacy from you.
Well, Don, you've tipped Steve London in, and you've
No,
tipped...
his name's Dundon, Dundon
Working for?
himself.
And where would
On
he
behalf
air,
of?
where would he air
On
this?
behalf of himself.
And what's he want to do?
He wants to use the three of us,
you
Tony,
make-
Bernie, and
Oh.
Tony, Bernie, and I.
The three amigos.
Yeah, and he wants to do a kind of a reality show.
Oh, so you've let this go. So you didn't want me to bring it up, but you're now just going
Well,
right
you're
on with it.
asking the question, and
A
I'm
10-part
answering.
series on you and Bernie and Tony going out and doing odd jobs for footballers and personalities and chatting to them, and it's going to be huge.
Is it?
Well, you said it was.
Oh, no, I did not.
Well,
I said-
Steve
I
Dundas-
rang up asking advice from you.
Well, Steve Dundas did.
I wanted advice from you
Well, I gave you
About
advice.
what?
about how to approach this because
Money.
I'm very naive in this area, and he's an
He
expert.
wanted advice about
He's an
money.
expert. Well, none of us are an expert. None of
Now-
us have got a job at the moment.
Now, can I go on, Mick?
I want to ask you about
Please.
your second favourite subject, the graffiti. Did you see
Oh,
how
that is shocking.
how they have
That is-
defaced the exhibition buildings? Now, I've finally swung to your side on this.
Thank you.
If they catch those blokes, those people, no rap over the knuckles for
No.
this. They've got to make a statement.
It is.
Have you guys travelled by train from South Yarra to the city? Have you seen the factories they've defaced
so- yeah,
along
this is-
that road? You
so-
wouldn't travel by train, John, but you might, Michael.
I have, yeah.
How, that is disgusting.
It is,
and
but this is the exhibition
I
building.
know,
Mick,
mate, but
this
it's
is a
whole-
showpiece.
It's right around Victoria.
when
Melbourne,
I
in
was
Melbourne.
when I was going to stand for the Lord Mayor, the second thing I would have done was get a task force, a workforce of people on behalf of the council or the government to monitor people at night through the middle of the night with people defacing the...
Well, you'd put a lot of CC cameras around.
But you got to have people, got to have boots on the ground, if you like. It is
Really?
an absolute...
What, to guard the city?
to guard the vermin and the bacteria that go around defacing the city. What enjoyment do they get out of doing it?
Well, it seems to be well
Don't know.
organised, doesn't it?
It's extraordinarily well organised.
What, 8:30 to 9:15? So there's a 3/4 hour space in which obviously a gang's come in.
Is this the exhibition building?
Yes,
Yeah.
the exhibition building. They got it down to those times.
So
it's a gang of them that just come in organised and.
So what
Through they
happens
go.
is, because no one takes any action, it's just carte blanche. People just go around doing it.
But John, it's well organised. It's
So
obviously well organised.
how about our taxes go to preserving the aesthetic quality of the city we live in?
But you've got to be practical. How many people are you going to have on the ground policing that?
Well, how about if people are out and about and see nefarious activity going on, you see them lurking around on bridges and things, ring up the Dobbin line and have the people go out in cars, in vans, a squad of people who are employed by the council go out and try and hit it on the head, because it's cringeworthy to live in a society where you've got a dumbass people doing this.
Graffiti's a worldwide problem, though.
Well,
We're not worried about World War. We're just worried about Melbourne. Let's address
Oh,
it.
it is a yeah, we're worrying.
We're not going to solve the world problem. We can solve this
Broaden
one.
our horizons.
We
a
should
fraction,
try
Don.
and do something about it. Seriously,
Exactly. You
it
get
is
no argument.
extraordinary, and no one does
But Sally
anything
Cap's
about it.
doing something. We've had Sally on, and she's trying to do something
What's
about
she?
it.
What is Sally doing again?
Well, they scrub it off straight away. as soon
Scrub
as
it
they
off.
put-
How about we try and nail people while they're doing it?
Nail them. What would you do with them when you nailed them?
I'd probably get a non-toxic dye and spray them with a big hose, so that you spray them red, so that they actually.
That you can't wash off.
I said a non-toxic dye.
No, you didn't say whether you can wash it off or not.
Well, all right, if you can't wash it off, it doesn't hurt you if it's on you, but it takes a hell of a long time to scrub it off you.
Okay.
What about a
Do
good
something.
Good foot up the ring wouldn't hurt.
No, but this is, we're
Good
not
foot up the
advertising good foot up the ring.
You were at every country police station in Australia 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
Good foot up the ring.
Exactly right, and there were no fights, and they kept you in line, didn't you? Because you were fearful of what was going to happen.
Now,
One more before the
right.
courts go.
right.
The two kids, the brothers, who attacked the off-duty policeman
Oh, yes.
and kicked the shit out of him in the grounds of St. Kevin's. One got 20 months, and the younger brother who participated in the same thing got community service order. The bloke had broken ribs, the policeman. Not that it mattered that he was a policeman because he was off duty, and bleeding to the brain.
Okay, who sentenced these people?
The guy in I think the county court, I think.
Yep. And what was his rationale for that lenient penalty?
Because
He thought one could be rehabilitated.
Yeah, the younger kid had
The
no
way- he was very
priors.
sympathetic
Oh,
to
how
him.
old was the younger kid?
18.
You wouldn't have a lot of
You
priors
shouldn't
when
have
you're
it
18,
18,
would
no.
you?
And he was led by his older brother,
Yeah,
who
I
obviously
must
must
say-
be a bit of a...
And the claim
larrikin.
was, the defence was they were so pissed and high on pharmaceuticals that they had no idea what they'd done.
Well, what about
Is that a
the two
legitimate
lines?
Diminished
excuse?
responsibility.
Well,
Nick.
yeah, but if you diminish it yourself, why is that a legitimate excuse?
Well, it's an excuse. I don't know if it's legitimate or not. In 20 months, they'll probably just do 9.
Well, he's already done. He's been inside
For
for
12.
12, so he's got 9 months to go.
What happened to those
He'll
two
be
guys?
out tomorrow.
Yeah.
What happened to those two guys from, was it Xavier?
The Xavier,
College?
yeah.
What happened to those two?
Uh,
After the football they took to
that's
somebody
right.
in Bridge Road.
Yeah. No, yes, that's right. Opposite, no, in front of the Hilton, I think. Or
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Now-
So what happened to those
Well,
two?
one went in, and the younger one, I think, got a jail term and no, I don't know the answer to that. But one of them went in.
Yeah, they
Now,
should
look, I
crack
thought
down
I'd
on
try
those.
and do something.
But no, wait a sec. I know what you're trying to do.
What?
Well, you're going to ring someone.
Well, go on.
Okay, but we've got it's
go
not
with-
even
all right, we'll go
okay.
ahead.
Well, so I mean these are issues that previously you would be ropeable about. I mean, crime in the street and stuff
What
like
did
that.
I say
I'm
about
not
the
sure what you said.
graffiti?
No, not the graffiti. The bloke about the bloke getting almost killed.
And I said, who gave him the
Hmm.
lenient penalty? Some some
geez, I don't know.
activists.
I just
What
needed
about the
to-
grand final holiday, boys? They still want to push for that. The Andrews government bought
It's
it
in,
in.
isn't it?
It's in, but the Andrews government bought it in as a sweetener, I think. I don't know why we even have a holiday on the Friday prior to the grand final, but they want to keep it in for this year, and we don't know when the grand final is. But
Well, yeah,
they've
we do.
designated this particular Friday.
Yeah, but we've got a date. I mean, if things unfold as they hope, the date is Cox Plate Day, isn't it?
Well,
Did you celebrate Sorry, Mick.
Well, I can't get you interested in anything today of any import.
I'm interested in everything you say always, Mick.
What do you think the grand final?
The Cox Plate, is that when the Queen's sister came out and go on, kiss the Cox? Yeah, go on.
I got it. What should take precedence if the Cox Plate
Yes.
is fixed on this date every
Yes.
year, and the AFL suddenly
Yes.
decides, we want a share of that date?
We did discuss this last
No,
week.
but who should get the afternoon? Who
the
should?
racing club.
Well, I would have thought so.
No, but
And the racing club have come out and
Yeah.
said
That they're not gonna
AFL,
move.
why don't you put your night,
Yeah,
have it
yeah.
as a night grand
the
final?
Racing Club were magnanimous enough to say, as I understand it, that if through consultation the AFL thought that they would like to play the game in the daytime, the Cox Plate would move to a different time.
No, well, it's different from what I read. They've come up with a proposal, the Moonah Valley Racing
Well, this
Club,
might be
to have the AFL on.
around the back door to getting the grand final played at night.
Well,
Might be a good excuse for them to kill two birds with the one stone. And the man,
old two birds with the one
the
stone,
old
eh?
two birds with the one agate, Donald.
What are you talking?
Well, you don't understand because you've had
So
bird flu.
Say something. Who should have first dibs at the afternoon of Cox Plate Day? The racing club or the AFL?
Well,
because,
if it's a designated fixture and the time has been given to the Cox Plate, they should.
Right.
But
So then, would you then have the AFL as a twilight or a night game?
well, you would have to, wouldn't you? If the grounds are in limited supply because the cricket season's coming on and all that, this would be a great excuse for them to now dip a toe in the water and have a night grand final because that's what they want.
Well,
after
they
all.
don't need an excuse.
Yeah, they do.
They run the game. They can have a night grand final any year they like.
Against public wish, I think. I think most of the public would still like to have the day grand final where you go to the breakfast and you have a bit of lunch and then you go and get absolutely shit-faced at the football and get a flick knife jabbed into your solar plexus on the way down to Frankston in the
then you
train after the
And then
game.
you bash your bloke at St Kevin's. Yeah,
That's it.
It's a good
Go
fare,
to a
isn't it?
venue that night. I mean, if you have it, the game starting at 8 o'clock in the evening, people are getting home on Monday.
Dead.
On Monday.
Coming home in body bags, Donald.
On Monday.
Monday.
Sunday
Yeah.
and Monday. And
But
Tuesday.
you wouldn't know because the three amigos would be out doing
Hey,
someone's
what about
lawn.
next
Or
week? What about next week? This is with notice. Put down the good things and bad things that have come out of this coronavirus.
Okay,
it'll,
we'll do that
it'll
next
require
week,
a little
Donald.
bit of thought, John.
Yeah, no. Well, I'll have a week to think about it. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to
Next
do
week.
this now, Mick. What's bubbling along is still...
What about?
What's bubbling along now...
Can I have one more? Because I know
No,
we.
you're cutting him off.
Well, he wants-
You're shit scared about what I'm about
No,
to do.
I'm not. I wanna
yes,
ask
you
one
are.
other
You're
question.
intimidated.
No, he's going to walk out.
It's a quick one.
I don't care if he walks
I'm not going to
out.
walk out.
Yes, you are. You're going to pick up. You're going
Go
to
on.
Pick
But
up your bat and go home.
if Footy Classified is the preeminent football discussion program,
What?
which the 9 people would have you believe, why does it come on at 11:05?
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Well, you don't watch anything. I shouldn't have asked you.
No, I was in
You're-
bed.
you're
What do you
meant to
mean I
sleep
don't watch
3 hours by
anything?
then.
I watch
How
plenty.
could you have a program that you boast about?
Well,
and you
obviously
say
it's not rating.
Well, that would seem to be, but they keep saying it is. But who's going to stay up till 11:05 on a Monday night?
I'm not.
We've had 4 hours sleep by then.
Yeah, so well, that's it. Anyway, I just wanted that out there.
So they would probably say the station, like all stations, network national programs.
Yeah.
And when their national programming schedule is over, they put local content on. That's how it would work, isn't it?
But isn't football a national game?
No, it's only
it's
played in the southern
not a
states.
national program because the north of Australia is predominantly rugby
Rugby
league
league,
oriented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So Mick.
Okay, that's all.
No, we're going
No.
to.
I've got a lot of other things here, but who's interested? So don't worry.
Well,
You
we
move on.
are. No, because they'd be very good points if you brought them up.
Or you're being sarcastic, Don, are you?
No.
Dean Laidley has
Is he coming
still
on?
been in the news, and I'm going to now. I'm going to speak to a person who rang me and said that they thought they could help Dean Laidley.
Hang on, it was very. They rang you.
Yes, they reached out to me. This person,
Okay.
and this person.
You've had previous experience with this person?
Oh, not really. No, Mick.
You have,
no.
so.
Hang on, what type of experience?
Only verbally, yes.
Yeah,
Yes. So that's why this person called Kirsty Miller reached out to me. Kirsty Miller is a trans.
Gender.
Thank you, Mick. And
No, hang on. Are we sure transgender? There are so
Well,
many variations.
yes, she's a trans person, and she used to be called Warren.
What?
And she's now changed her name
I
to
know why-
Kirsty.
I know why she's
Be
gone to
quiet,
Kirsty.
Michael. I'm trying to listen
She's
to this.
now changed her name to Kirsty, and she her background is she was represented Australia in the modern pentathlon when she was a man or a male, and she was the head warden of the Goulburn jail as a man, and one day she turned up as dressed as a woman because she had transgendered, and she knows all about what's going on with Dean Laidley because she said, but for the grace
Mentally, she'd know.
mentally and
Well, she thinks she
probably
knows.
physically.
Sammy?
We're going to get her on the line. I don't want you to be intimidated by
I'm not,
Mick.
I just want to question because who says that Dean Laidley wants to transition?
That's exactly right.
He
Well,
may just. I don't think he's unhappy as a bloke. He goes out with women.
so does
So
this.
we asked
So
the
does this
variation.
person. This
Yeah.
person was a biological male.
Yeah.
But apparently she's had the steak and two veg
No, we asked, John.
removed.
asked it- no,
Anyhow,
don't assume.
I would like you now to get her on the line, and she's put the headphones on, and she's
No, hang on.
up for a chat. You can ask
Hang on,
her
hang
anything
on.
you like.
Is it Kirsten?
Kirsty,
Kirsty.
yes.
Thank you.
So we're going to see if she's on the line. Let's hope she answers the phone.
Don't laugh.
And
Good morning, Kirsty speaking.
it's Sam Newman, Kirsty, and I'm here with Mike Sheahan and Don Scott. And it's very nice of you to join us. I've given them a small background on who you are and what you've done in your life. But we thought predominantly we would like to chat to you about, and among other things, about Dean Laidley and what you think's going on with him and your experience about all that. So how are you?
I'm great, Sam, and thank you for having me on the show, and it's great to be here with Mike and Don. I hope I don't
No,
scare them
they're
away.
Mick's a bit phased by a bit phased. He's not quite sure.
No, I interviewed Hannah Mounsey on open mic 2 years ago.
This is and go
Yes,
ahead,
yes,
Kirsty.
I absolutely love that interview you did with Hannah. For someone that hasn't interviewed many trans girls, you did exceptionally well. There's probably only one question you shouldn't have asked, but you learnt. And as for being respectful, you were
Thank
definitely
you.
Mike.
So the question that I shouldn't have asked, according to you, was that about whether he'd had any surgery?
Yeah, whether Hannah had the surgery or not. That's pretty much like going up to someone in the street and saying, "What's your vagina look like?" or "What's your
not
penis
quite,
look like?"
Kirsty, not
Not
quite.
well.
So-
That does happen, Mike.
So,
But Kirsty, if I can qualify,
this is
before
Don.
Yeah, before
Hey, Don.
How are you,
You're a
Kirsty?
legend, Don.
I'm very
You're a legend.
naive on this subject, so you'll have to put up with my naivety or my questioning because I just don't understand this subject at all. But where does it fit in that you got male, female, but you got so many variations? And what Michael asked before was something that I would have asked as well, because there are different stages of this trans thing, isn't there, or different aspects to it?
Absolutely. Just to describe myself, I'm what you call a binary trans woman. So I was born in a male body and transitioned hormonally and surgically over many years. So now I'm legally recognised as a female. So I'm pretty much your stock standard transgender person. I was born with this gender dysphoria, and from about 3.5 years of age, I never felt comfortable in my own body. And then you have the non-binary people. There's some people that don't feel quite male or female. And the first person in Australia to be like this. And this was back in about 2013. Was a person called Nori, and Nori was like myself, born in a male body, went through the surgical transition, but still didn't fit in as a male or a female. So they went to the High Court and ruled that there is a non-binary definition in Australia.
So hang on. So if you had your birth certificate changed,
I had my birth certificate amended back in 2006 in New South Wales.
so
And
now
to
you
do
are
that-
you are now recognised as being a female on your birth certificate.
Absolutely. But to get that, it wasn't just a matter of applying. I had to, number one, and that law still exists in New South Wales, I had to have had the gender reassignment surgery. Then I had to go and find 2 doctors to examine me and get 2 stat decks signed. And above and beyond that, because I was married to my childhood sweetheart, my wife, back then, and this law was only repealed about 18 months ago, the pair of us, even though we've been married 21 years, we were forced to divorce before I could amend my birth certificate.
So you're still in that relationship?
No. We split up quite a few years ago. We're still best mates. We're still very much a family. But the ironic thing was when I changed my birth certificate and pre-same-sex marriage, I've always been attracted to females. Like my gender identity is a female, but I identify. My sexuality's never changed.
So hang on. Can I just pull you up again? Are you a lesbian?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're a man who changed his sex to a woman, and you go out with a woman, and you class yourself as a lesbian. Now, Kirsty, you have been married as a man and have children, don't you?
Absolutely. 3 children, 7 gorgeous grandchildren. And you know, my eldest grandchild is 12 years old, and about 12 months ago, I went down to Sydney to see her, and you know when someone's got something on their mind and they want to tell you something, they've got that guilty look. Well, my little granddaughter had that guilty look, and she told me, she said, Argy, she calls me Argy, which is Hindu for Nana. She said, Argy, she said, I watched a DVD about a transgender girl. She was born in a boy's body and transitioned and went to a special school, and she said her name was Georgie also. And then she looked at me and she said, you know, Argy, I'm very lucky to have a transgender man. So, you know, the next generation, they see people from the inside out, not the outside in, you know.
So,
and she's grown up with me.
So I know you criticised Michael for asking Hannah Mousey about whether she have you had
surgery, it's called.
Sexual realignment, have you? Have you had the male parts of your body removed and replaced with female parts?
Absolutely. And just to clarify this, I did give Sam permission to ask me these questions before we come on air.
Yes.
Because I want this to be a frank and open discussion, you know. So, yeah, many years ago, Sam, I went to Thailand. The first time I went to Thailand, I went, yep.
Yes.
I went to Bangkok pretty much. I went to Thailand. My first operation I had in 2004, and that was 4 years into my transition. So I'd chemically transitioned, and I still felt the male puberty. I was born with a bit of a rough head, you know. So I thought I had to feminise a bit. So I went to Thailand and pretty much had my face peeled off my head, and I had jaw reduction, I had cheek implants, a new nose, I had my Adam's apple done, and then I got breast augmentation surgery. And then back in 2006, I returned and had gender reassignment surgery. So I went over there with a penis and returned 7 weeks later with a vagina. And the minute
where did you get that from, the vagina?
That was in Thailand, and I was really, really lucky at the time, Sam, over there, because at the time, I didn't have it in Australia for a number of reasons, right? In Australia, there's only a couple of surgeons that do this. Now, if you're going to take your Lamborghini to a mechanic, Sam, you're not going to take it to a mechanic that only does a couple of tune-ups a year. So I searched and I found Thailand are the world experts in this stuff. and I spoke to a lot of other girls that had, and the whole Thai experience as well. But I was very lucky at the time. They had a special, Sam. They were only charging $1,000 an inch. Yeah, they're only charging $1,000 an inch at the time, Sam. I got away with mine for $13,000. I was pretty lucky. And the minute I woke up from that surgery, Sam, I've never had a regret. My life just got stronger.
I know it's talked about Don asking a naive question. Where do you get a vagina from? How do you get
Bunnings, Sam?
Well, that's my point. Is it do you go and where are they? Are they on?
It's made, you idiot.
Yeah.
Made, is it?
Yeah.
Pretty much, Sam, when we're all in our mother's wombs, everything down there is the same skin, right? But about 6 weeks into the pregnancy, a little boy baby normally gets a massive dose of testosterone and a female in the womb estrogen, and either it pops out or goes in, and sometimes it's mixed up, So pretty much they reverse what happened in the womb. They turn everything back inside. The only things that they throw out are the testicles, and all the rest is reused.
Recycled.
So turned inside out, tugged back in, and like I was lucky, I got to pick what I said to my doctor. I just want a small one. That's all I wanted. I said, I don't want a messy one with all bits out everywhere. So I woke up happy with my surgery, and I didn't really care if it worked or not, Sam, because being transgender's got nothing at all to do with your sexuality.
Uh-huh.
I didn't care. I did not care if it could work at all, as long as I could look in the mirror and feel comfortable within my own skin. And luckily it did work. I do have orgasms still.
Yeah.
And
tell you what, you won ahead of Don, Mick, and I.
Well, I'm lucky. I definitely would not ever going to have performance issues the older I get, like you three.
You what?
I'm not going to have performance issues.
Yeah.
And
What are you looking at me for?
it does add, to my life.
I reckon you could. I reckon Don. You'd be half a chance with Don. I reckon.
Hang on, can I pick up my jaw and ask you a question? It's on the floor at the moment. You're still working in the prison system?
No, I got out of the prison system in early 2005. I actually transitioned while I was the governor of the jail.
Now, this is what I want to get. No, finish. Oh, this is what I wanted to get to.
Well, she was telling.
So, did you come in one day in pants? What did you wear the next day?
Well, I went home and got my hair permed overnight and wore instead of wearing the boys' slacks, I wore the girls' slacks.
The girls what?
Slacks.
The girls' slacks uniform instead of the boys, and I wore the.
And how were you accepted?
How
were you accepted when you went in the next day?
Well, you've got to think this is 20 years ago in Broken Hill, Don, and it's not St Kilda, and it's not Darlinghurst. It's bloody Broken Hill, right? And it's a home of mining. It's a pretty rough place back there. And so, number one, it was big news. So I walked in, and first thing I said to my staff was, I'll be in my office, and my name's Kirsty now. And within about half an hour, it was around the whole department because I was pretty much the commissioner's golden-haired boy. I went through the ranks very quick and got recognised as a tough screw. But over the previous 12 months, I've been taking these hormone tablets, and I've lost about 40 kilos in weight, and people thought I was having a facelift or getting younger or having affairs. No one guessed I was turning into a woman, and I thought, I'm not going to make a big announcement. I'm just going to go to work, So I knocked on the door and walked in. That took a lot of guts, Don, to walk into a maximum security jail.
I've got nothing but admiration for you.
And you know what?
So hang on, let her finish, Michael.
Well,
here's a good story. The guy that promoted me governor was Ron Woodham, and Ron was the only prison officer in the history of New South Wales Corrections to go from a base grade prison officer all the way through to commissioner. He was like the toughest guy I'd ever met in my life, right? And the last time this guy cried would have been in the Bathurst riots in 1974. So the day I went to work with Kirsty, he rang me up and said, what the fuck's going on in Broken Hill?
Good work.
And I said, I'm a woman, sir. He says, get yourself and your wife to Sydney today. So they flew me down to Sydney and with my wife, and I told Ron Woodham my story, and he had tears coming out of his eyes. And he turned around to me and he said, pardon the pun, Kirsty, but you've got the biggest balls in the department. And no, I didn't at that stage. They shrunk to pea size, from the medication.
Beautifully.
But Ron Woodham absolutely backed me. All my staff absolutely backed me, but mind you, I had a crown and 3 stars, so they had to. But what impressed me the most was the acceptance from the inmates, and particularly the jail out here is predominantly an Indigenous correctional complex. And I was surprised that I was accepted straight away by the Indigenous people, but inmates. But in my 20 years of transitioning, I found the most acceptance in the Aboriginal community.
No,
So
I want to ask you a question. Yes, Sam?
here's a man with equally as small balls as yours, Kirsty. Here's Mick.
You said Kirsty was coming on to shed some light on the Dean Laidley situation.
I was going
Can
to
we
get
get
onto
to that?
Exactly. Please,
Kirsty,
ask her.
Yeah.
But
Kirsty,
is Kirsty qualified to talk
Well, I was
Hang
gonna
on,
ask
we're going
Kirsty-
to find out.
I was going to ask
Don.
her a view. Kirsty, what would prompt you to say that you can help us in relation, or help Dean Laidley in relation to the situation he
question,
finds
Mick.
himself in?
Well, in particular, that photo that should never have been released in the first place by the police, that photo of Dean sitting there and looked pretty well fucked from drugs, sitting there in a wig and all that stuff, that reminded me of me back about 9 years ago, because I had a bad incident happen to me, and I ended up homeless, Mike, back in 2010 after being a gang rape victim, right? And
A gang
living on
raped
the
as a
street-
woman or a man, Kirsty?
as a woman, I had 6 men gang rape me in Blacktown, and I ended up homeless for 18 months. I couldn't work. I was very ill. And in that 18 months, I used drugs for the first time in my life. And so seeing that photo of Dean really reminisced with what I was going through at that time in my life and what possibly Dean's going through. And because Mike and Don and Sam, there's a Kirsty and Dean in every football club. You know what I mean? There's one in every sports code. There's one in every walk of life. And sadly, for someone like Dean, that said in the bail application, Dean suffered gender dysphoria for a long, long time. In my hometown, I grew up a household name, and it made it very difficult for me to be me at an early age. The more I become known, I could only just imagine what Dean, because he's like me on steroids. He's so well known, and the pressure to live your whole life, and have to hide who you are. So, but what really impressed me the most out of the whole Dean Laidley thing was the support from the football community, the people calling this out, the people saying it's none of our business what Dean wears. So, people bag football communities being over-masculinized and all this stuff. I found my greatest support and the greatest friendships within the football communities, within those masculine areas. So, I think the football community led the way in this. Sadly, the police, they're way behind what the football community is.
So
They're
where
the
do you
ones that
think?
need the education.
So where do you think? I know it's a bit hard to say this from afar, but where do you think Dean Laidley is at present? Is he just doing this because it's a fancy of his, or do you think he's going to take it further from your experience? I know you can't answer that, but what do you think?
Well, without speaking or meeting Dean, which I would dearly love to, if Dean does suffer from gender dysphoria, the best way to describe what gender dysphoria feels like, given my own experience, at 3.5 years of age, my mum and dad, for a joke, dressed me in a yellow dress, and I was only a boy. I was born as Warren Jr. with a lot of expectations put on my head, as a young child, and they dressed me in this dress when I was 3.5 years of age. And
Why
took me
did
out the
they do
backyard
that? Why?
For a joke. For a joke, They weren't meaning to hurt me. They didn't know. But I knew back then I was different. I knew way back then. And that incident evolved into a reoccurring nightmare of 33 years that I kept dreaming that if I told anyone who I was, they'd laugh at me. And I've worked in every maximum security jail in New South Wales. I've worked in the strictest high security units where inmates are placed in cellular confinement. They're in rooms for 23 hours a day, smaller than our bathrooms. suffering gender dysphoria, right, is like being inside your head. Your cell is your head. You cannot escape ever.
So Kirsty, you wouldn't subscribe to the fact that biologically there's only two genders, male or female. You scientifically, you just don't accept that.
No, there's absolutely two sexes, male and female, and there's people that one or not the other, like even biologically.
But you can't have that. That seems a contradiction in terms. You either say you're a male or a female, but you say.
But there's many variations. Isn't there many variations?
There's 9 different chromosome types. There is XX men. There is XY females. There is XXY people. There is 9 different types of chromosome types, right? So, and there is not one particular trait that you can say can put every single person in a box as male or female.
Right. So
yeah, and
now,
well,
go ahead. Finally, I just want to ask you this, and you know what my opinion about this is, and my attitude is. Do you think it's fair that people like you who transition from men into women should be allowed to play biologically female sport?
Currently, I'll give you a bit of a history on trans people in sport first. In this conversation, there's been a lot of irrational fears about trans athletes and in sport. Trans women have competed at the elite level. The first one was Renee Richards back in 1976.
Is it fair, Kirsty?
I'm getting to there because this is not a yes or no answer, Sam, right? So, and then back in 2003, the first policy came out for trans girls to be able to compete at the Olympic Games. Now, there's been 8 Olympic Games, 4 summer and 4 winter. There's been 54,000 Olympians since the first transgender policy. Do you know how many trans athletes have even qualified to compete for any country in that time?
No.
Not one. Not one.
And what's your
point?
Because what I'm saying is the current policy of the OIC, right, definitely someone like myself, it took a lot longer than 12 months to feminize. Someone like Hannah Mounsey, who was a top athlete, right, takes a lot longer than the 12 months of what the OIC policy is. Then there's other trans people that can feminize a lot quicker than what me and Hannah Mounsey was. But the policy of the OIC isn't an automatic 12 months you're through. And we saw that with Hannah Mounsey in the AFLW, where her time was extended.
Okay.
And the OIC likewise. So I don't believe that the OIC policy is perfect. It is how it is now. I believe they're trying to fit square pegs in round holes. Now, so the irrational fears are not what they are.
Right now, Don, we've got to finish this because it stops it. Go ahead.
Well, you seem to have your act together, Kirsty, but why didn't you have your act together when you said you went on drugs, went to Blacktown? Why aren't you still in the prison system? And where did you go off the rails, and why did you go off the rails?
I actually got out of the prison system because I wanted a whole new life. I wanted to work in a more feminine environment for a change. So I did nursing for a few years. And then I had the gang rape incident, which made me very unwell and I became homeless. But, Don, I fought back from being homeless in 2012 to 2014. I gained a position as a regional manager of Australia's biggest Indigenous employment service agency. So, 8 years on from my homelessness, I'm stronger, fitter, more healthier, happier than any time in my life.
Now, Kirsty?
Yeah.
It's very nice of you to join us. We could do this for an hour, but we can't.
Well, we're going to have to do it again, I believe.
Well, you have to come down and Don would like to meet you personally. I've met you personally. And
why would I like to meet
Because I
Kirsty
think you might hit it off with Kirsty.
Well, Don, I believe that we've got
she's a lesbian.
Because,
that means she likes women, don't you?
No, well, Don's got a history in show jumping, I believe.
Geez, you've done your research, Kirsty.
Yeah, well, I was a show jumper, Don.
She's a horsewoman. You're a horseman, Don.
I learned that I was a modern pentathlete. I had to learn to ride a horse when I was about 13 years of age.
Yes, that's right.
it's quite hard. You're meant to learn when you're young, like
Yeah.
swimming, you know. But
All right.
9 months after getting on my first horse, I went to the World Modern Pentathlon Championship.
I announced that before you came on. I announced all that that you'd done
Yeah,
that.
He wants to wind you up, Kirsty.
No, I don't
Can't
want to
get the
wind you
hint?
up. I don't. I don't want to wind her up. But we cannot. This can't go past a certain designated time. We have a time constraint, Donald. That's how this forum works.
Next time I'm in Melbourne, we'll all go out for coffee.
That's what we'd like to do, Kirsty.
Yeah,
I'd want to film you and Don going out together having coffee. This would be an experience. Now, Kirsty,
I'd love to.
we will speak again, and thank you very much for joining us, my friend. And Mick, say goodbye to Kirsty.
Bye, Kirsty.
Oh, well done, Mick.
Oh, yeah, well done,
Yeah,
Mick.
how warm
And
sincere that
and
is.
guys, like with Sam myself, right? I went down and met Sam last year, and he ain't as bad as he bites. You know what I mean?
She's a typical
Sam's a
woman,
mate,
Kirsty. You don't shut up.
I know. I haven't shut up for 20 years.
Right, well done, Don.
Lovely talking to you guys.
That should get the politically correct brigade up in arms. Kirsty, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Go on, she's hung up in your ear.
Right, hung up in my
You were
rear,
rude. You were rude.
my ear.
Your ear.
So that's it. We've got a very special guest coming up next. Will we
Mick's got
announce
his-
who it is, or
Pick
won't
your
we?
jaw up, Mick.
Yours okay?
Mick,
What?
did you learn anything?
Well, I didn't learn. You based it on the premise that Kirsty would tell us something about Dean Laidley.
Well, she did.
No, she didn't.
She's not qualified.
No, there was nothing that would have enhanced our view about Dean Laidley out of that discussion.
That he was transitioning into wanting to be.
He's not transitioning. Who says he's transitioning?
I have no idea. Oh, all right.
Come on, we've got.
All right. Well, we're doing it. Play it.